Hello Internet, Taliesin here, and today we are talking the endgame of World of Warcraft Shadowlands, and specifically what your day-to-day routine is going to look like in the new expansion once you've completed all your leveling and chosen your covenant. Gameplay that is going to make up probably the majority of your time actually playing Shadowlands, so this really is quite important because now we get our first idea. As you probably know, at the time of writing, the Shadowlands beta has been announced for next week, and a bunch of creators have been granted access to a special event server to play and get a look at all of this endgame stuff. I've been up all night. Quite a lot of that was spent playing the new Theatre of Pain dungeon because it's awesome, but most was spent really getting to grips with how Shadowlands Endgame works and what we are going to be spending our time doing and why you'll be doing it. So join us as we guide you through the level 60 Shadowlands daily routine and ask, is this expansion any good or should we throw it in the bin? I don't know, I'm trying to make it sound exciting, okay? Go, 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 go. So first things first, all of these new activities and goals that we are about to show you, why are we doing them in the first place? What is our objective with any of this? What purpose do they serve in our character's progression? And that's actually a really good question, fair play, you should write my videos for me. Obviously the main objective is to get awesome gear and be a badass and beat the hardest content in the game, and to that end you're going to be doing the same things as always: Mythic Plus and raiding. And you already know how you feel about Mythic Plus and raiding, particularly raiding. It's been an incredibly consistent part of WoW for years now. You're usually on safe ground with raiding, but it's what you do in between those activities that is the important part of the daily or weekly routine. Everyone enjoyed the routine of doing dailies and emissaries in Legion because the concept of world quests was new, and also there's always the chance that that BIS legendary would drop and you would finally get off the bench of your raid team. BFA's routine, on the other hand, didn't hold up quite so well, partly because people had reached world quest saturation by then, but also because if you were a mythic raider, then a fair chunk of your daily routine was running hundreds of island expeditions for that bittersweet Azerite power. In Shadowlands then, there are two main progressions that you are working towards in the daily routine: legendaries and your covenant, with everything that that entails. And at its most simple, that is essentially it. You want to be doing what you need to craft those legendary items you want, and you're going to want to be progressing and improving the strength of your chosen covenant. When you first choose your covenant, it's a bit of an empty husk just waiting to be filled with awesome things, not unlike Suramar. And it's really not totally inaccurate to think of your covenant in the same terms as your artifact weapon or Heart of Azeroth, as in the more you've progressed it and built it up, the more powerful your character is going to be, but in a more varied way than those previous two systems. Your covenant gives you access to the Soulbind system, which is essentially an extra 3 talent trees to choose from. It's your main power gain reason to progress your covenant, and we're going to be taking a really good look at the Soulbind system and how it works in a different video. But there's also your new mission table for offline resource and rep generation, a teleportation network for easy travel around your home zone, and the targeted Anima system for unlocking special world quests and events in certain parts of the zone, daily and eventually permanently. There's also a unique system depending on your covenant. We only have access to the Venthyr on the event realm right now, and for the Bitey boys, that is the Ember Court, which is a weekly event with some interesting rewards. From an RP point of view, there's also the Covenant Story campaign, which will unfold throughout the expansion, and the various cosmetic rewards that Covenant Progress will grant you, like mounts and armor sets and all of that good stuff. So that's the two main objectives: bag legendaries and progress your covenant. But the next question is, how do we do that? Well, legendaries is simple. You run Torghast, the infinite tower of the damned. That's the main reason for Torghast. It's what you're going in there to do, is to gather those legendary resources and craft orange awesomeness. We now know that all entries into Torghast are going to be free and unlimited, which means that Blizz are probably going to have to put a weekly hard cap on the legendary component rewards within. This sounds like something it will be pretty straightforward to keep up to date with. Great, so we can pop legendaries into a corner until we actually get to see some of the effects that we'll be able to use later on in the beta, which just leaves covenants. And how do we progress those? Again, to put this as simply as possible, you do it through Anima, Renown, and Lost Souls. It would seem that the most valuable of these, the one that you use the others to get, is Renown. This is like your artifact power, if you like. It's what unlocks the things that can then be essentially bought with the other two resources. So think of it like this. Renown is how you progress the Covenant, Anima is how you power it, and souls are the specific parts of the machine. So, for example, one of the many things that getting to higher levels of Renown will do is unlock new adventurers for your mission table, but you need Anima to actually send them out and do the missions. Your new autobattler mission table, which, okay, I thought this was going to be annoying and stupid, but so far I have really enjoyed, because it turns out autobattlers are really fun. Now, for someone like me who doesn't use add-ons to do my mission table now, it's barely any more work or thought than I give the BFA version. It's just flat out more fun, so that is an objective improvement. But here's the thing, it may well turn out harder to make an add-on that automates this system. I suspect that's half the reason they made it. So if that's you, it might force you to engage with your mission table a little bit more than you'd like. But there's no such thing as a mandatory mission table reward in BFA beyond that one essence, and I would expect it to be the same in Shadowlands. Some of these fights are stupid though, and I can actually see myself caring a lot more about my followers or adventurers and what they can do, and investing in them with more time and emotion than I have done in other expansions. I hope so anyway. I've been pleasantly surprised by this. You also need Anima to unlock your Covenant upgrades, like the teleportation network, new power for your adventurers, new stuff for the Ember Court, we'll talk about that more in a moment, and the Anima diversion network. Okay, so all the Anima you collect goes into your Anima reservoir, and then you can choose to redirect Anima to certain points in the map to grant that area special events like world bosses. Over time, as you direct Anima to a certain point, it fills up a bar until eventually that point is permanently unlocked. There's also a cool RP element to this too, where according to Ian, physical changes happen to that part of the zone as well. The example he gave was that a dead part of Ardenweald would start to sprout new plant life and become all shiny and glittery again. So that's really cool. I'm really into that idea. That's so far what you need all that Anima for, and I'm sure there will be other uses for it too that haven't appeared on the beta just yet. And Anima is gained by doing pretty much anything, but especially from completing world quests and objectives. Oh no, Taliesin, not world quests. You said this was different this time. Well, no, I didn't say it was different. I said there were no island expeditions. Although, as it happens, world quests also have a slightly different focus in Shadowlands. There is one what we would recognize as an emissary in a day. I was told to go into 4 world quests in Revendreth, which then rewarded me a chest with Covenant tribute in it, which was a whole chunk of Anima for my reservoir and some gold. But there was a bit more of a mix beyond that. I was told to go to Maldraxxus and essentially kill 5 elites for another tribute box, and fill a bar defending Maldraxxus, which, yeah, okay, could be done exclusively by completing world quests, but also I filled up 60% of it by doing the Theatre of Pain dungeon. I don't know if I mentioned, but the Theatre of Pain is awesome, so that's a nice touch. So it is a bit more interesting than just emissaries being up, and I think it's probably an improvement over the current system. I'm optimistic. I'm guessing you'll also be getting Anima from enemy drops and dungeon bosses, raid bosses, and your weekly chest, but you can also get it from Torghast and the Maw. Torghast and the Maw being where you get your souls from too. Let's go back to those Covenant upgrades for a second. You can see that they all have an Anima cost, but also a different type of soul cost. And this is one of the reasons that you're going to find yourself wandering around the Maw at max level, which Ian has described as kind of like a Mechagon style zone, as in it's a bit more freeform and explory than a standard leveling zone, as well as being more dangerous, like much more dangerous. There is also, of course, a soft time limit on the amount of time that you can spend there per day. Completing activities and killing baddies there will fill up your Eye of the Jailer, which is when the Jailer will start to send increasingly more badass baddies after you to get you out of there. And I think it's really interesting to have this kind of zone in the game from day one. The more freeform Timeless Isle or Broken Shore style area is usually a patch X.2 introduction to an expansion. So I'm really interested to see how this will play out in the long term. There's also a pretty cool continuing story in the Maw too, where you are trying to rescue what are referred to as the Peacemakers. Bane, Jaina, Thrall, and Anduin, aka the idiots, the selfless heroes that we left behind when we made our escape from the zone in the intro. The only Covenant feature left to look at on the event realm right now is the Ember Court, the Venthyr-specific event. Other Covenants have their own unique hooks. Ardenweald has what's described as a soul garden, Maldraxxus has a build-your-own abomination workshop, which sounds awesome, and Bastion has a combat-heavy Path of Ascension event, but the Ember Court is basically a party planner simulator. Once a week, you get to put on a party for a number of invited guests, and you want to make sure that they have as good a time as possible so that they fill your chest with lovely rewards at the end of it. Different guests have different atmospheres that they like. Out of the available 5, a party can be formal or casual, for example. So if your guest prefers a formal environment, then you serve everyone tea because you are so classy. If they prefer it casual, then you run around dueling other guests to move the arrow further that way on the scale. If they like a dangerous atmosphere, then you can unleash enemies into the party. If they like it safe, then you instead eradicate those threats. It's a simple idea, but it's pretty neat, and the upgrades and different options that it looks like you can collect over the course of the expansion add a variety of different events that can help boost one of the atmospheres, as well as allowing you to invite specific guests to a party. So, for example, I decided to have a cool fish and Ardenweald theme party, which I thought was really awesome, because obviously it is, but which my guests hated because it wasn't really their thing. But you know what? Screw those guys. Who cares? What do they know? It's my party. I guess that eventually you want to be super good friends with all of the guests as a long-term goal, but I also know that all you really want to know is, why do we have to have this party, Taliesin? What is the reward? Well, interestingly, I got a couple of items that were usable inside the Halls of Atonement, which is one of the Revendreth dungeons. A key to a crypt, and I think a little follower dude for a little bit, and that's quite a nice little idea. If you are a Venthyr Covenant member, then doing Ember Court every week can give you stuff that makes you better at the Revendreth dungeon. I really like that, and I wonder if the rewards for the other Covenant's equivalent to do this will be on a similar sort of lines. I also know that a huge amount of you will not give a single shit about the Ember Court or the Soul Garden or any of the rest, and that is totally fair enough, but I think it's actually pretty cool. It's fun and a bit deeper than I imagined it would be. The rewards are useful without being anything mandatory, and I'm glad it's only playable once a week for that reason. Plus, I don't know if you saw my Fish and Ardenweald theme party, but it was awesome. I'm basically a born party planner. I'm quite proud of that. And that, so far, is that. Now, it's worth noting that obviously on the event realm, I can unlock all of this stuff and all of the resources that I need straight away. But there's actually quite a substantial Covenant campaign to play through when you first activate the Venthyr to gather all of these people, like the Architect who allows you to buy the upgrades, and the guys that set up the teleportation network, things like that. So there's a fair bit of questing and story to do before you're even in a position to start progressing anything. But so far, that's how you will be spending your days at max level beyond the usual raiding and dungeoning in Shadowlands. Heading out from your Covenant Hall with an armful of objectives and world quests to complete for Anima, which you'll then use to upgrade your Order Hall, focus Anima to different parts of the zone for extra events and rewards, heading to the Moor to gather souls and progress the story, getting your torghast runs done to stay on top of your legendary components and to eventually craft the orange items that you want the most, and ultimately progressing your 3 Soulbind trees and completing your Covenant Order Hall campaign. That's how your max level days will look, at least until 9.15. And that's promising. I like how the world quests are organised. I like how the focus is on progressing your Covenant Hall as opposed to a necklace. I like the way that progress upgrades your Soulbinds, but also the zone as a whole. I think the Moor is really cool. At the moment, I even quite like the mission table. I have no idea what's going on. It's possible that I may be delirious through lack of sleep. There are issues with the Soulbind system itself that I'm looking forward to talking through in a different video, mostly with the idea of Conduits, although I have had some good news on that from behind the scenes. But actually playing with it, it's a lot more simple than a lot of people might have previously imagined. Overall, I think there are some really good ideas in Shadowlands right now. I think now is a great time to be opening up the beta to a whole ton more people so that you, oh gorgeous viewer, can see it and test it for yourself. And you know, if you do get beta, do try and test it at least a little bit. Don't spend all of your time putting cool leaves into your Night Elf's beard, okay? But what do you guys think? Is what we've seen of Endgame so far enough to keep us busy at max level in the general day-to-day? Or is this even worse than BFA system and the worst game ever and we should encase it in concrete and throw it in the sea? That's possible. Is Covenants a big enough departure from the Artifact and Azerite systems, or is it just more of the same? Let us know in the comments below. And thanks for joining us today. If you like this video, don't thank us, thank our patrons who give their actual real life money to make all of our work happen. And seriously guys, thank you, because without you, there would be a whole lot less Taliesin and Evitel. If you didn't like it, downvote the shit out of it. Remember, my name is John Height. No, I wish he's so cool. No, my name is Taliesin from me and Evitel and Anirin too. Until next time, cheerio.